All right, well, thank you, everyone, for jumping on this Twitter space. We might try to do these a bit during the season as well. It's technology that I've struggled with a little bit. But anyway, we've got we'll try to make it work. And Roy's here.
G'day, team. How are you? Missed you.
Have you? Have you really?
Yeah, I have. Not you, everyone else.
Yeah, I haven't missed Calvin. That's one thing that's been a good thing. But yes, it's trade period, Roy. We thought we'd have a bit of a chat, a bit of a crack through this. I don't know whether you'd call it the halfway mark. It probably is for the amount of trades that will actually get done, because not much has really happened so far. But how much trade radio have you listened to so far?
Yeah, way too much, really. But the thing that annoys me the most is the time slots that I free myself up to have a listen. Oh, the people hosting. Come on.
So what's your who's the best show on there? What are the best ones to listen to?
I don't know if it's for all the right reasons, but I do like listening to Sauce and Rendell.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, man. Matty Rendell.
That's a bit of the sicko in me enjoying that, though.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just, I think sometimes, geez, we don't know what we're talking about with the stuff that we do, but then you listen to Matt Rendell.
It gives you nothing but confidence.
That's a good thing. So that's your sicko one. But which one do you like?
I think I like all of it. But, no, that's my favourite.
It is, right, okay.
Right, what's yours?
Oh, I don't mind Lordo.
Yeah.
I still don't understand how Lloyd has turned into Lordo with an R in it. But
No, same. I missed that one. That's too early for me to hit up.
Yeah. And I don't mind the exchange one. That's good, although it's missing something now that our man Mitch Cleary, he's not there.
Yes, it's a big hole.
Yeah, but anyway.
That's Tommy's game, that is.
So I'm wondering who gets the -3 then. Would it be the 9 to 12 slot?
You know me well, don't you?
Goddard. Now, if Matt Rendell shows that he doesn't know a lot sometimes, I don't know if Goddard's listened to footy for the last watched any footy for the last couple of years, almost.
I was at the gym. That was my chance to listen to it this morning, and I was mid-bench press, and he was naming Freo's best 22 for round one, and he's gone and listed a delisted player.
I actually heard that this morning too.
Oh, my God, I nearly dropped it on my throat.
Yeah, and then he's gone, oh, has he?
That was classic.
It was good. Anyway, well, here's we'll rank just slightly ahead of them with how we'll talk about our stuff, but we wanted to get our little fantasy juices flowing. We'll do a proper podcast after the trade period, whatever day that'll work out, whenever we can find a huge stack of money to give Calvin to actually come out of his off-season to be able to do something. But there'll be a few things for us to think about. So at the moment, I would say the player of real interest that's come through would have to be Will Brodie. What do you reckon?
Yeah, that's fair. Anytime a player as highly touted as he was is at that price tag.
Yeah, well, he's a top 10 draft pick, so that's the thing. And he's had bugger all games. So but I've done the maths on it. He's going to be priced at about $350K. So an absolute lock, because his VFL form, and I can see Hef there from the Keeper League. I've been having a look at some of his numbers on that site. So go and check that out if you haven't as yet, the Keeper League pod site. But pretty much in the VFL this year, he averaged 117. So we just know he's got game about him. It'll just depend on what his actual role will end up being. He probably does, like Chera's obviously out there for Freo. So that's got to be a positive in the sense that A, he'll be in the side, but B, have the potential for that role. And fingers crossed he holds that mid-forward status as well. But at that price, I think if he's playing round one, you're locking him in whether he's mid or mid-forward.
Oh, 100% you do. And it sort of even feels like he's a bit of a Chera replacement, doesn't it? So he averaged 51 this year from his 4 games. And that is just nowhere near a reflection of what he'll be able to do if he gets the opportunity. So, like you said, at that price, if he has forward status as well, that's just a gift.
Yeah, well, that's it. Even a couple of years ago, 2019, he averaged 88. So, like, that was in 8 games. So it was enough.
That's enough.
Enough data there to give that. It is boosted a bit by 142. But when you're priced, basically, think, what's that price him at? So that must price him at about 46, it does.
Yeah.
He's got 30 points upside at a minimum, I reckon. So it's just an absolute lock, especially if he has got that forward status.
Yeah, and when your average is boosted by a score of 142, that means you scored 142.
Exactly. It's a positive.
That's good.
Now, there's probably not a hell of a lot else that we're really that excited about, but Roy, okay, here you go. Let's go.
Well,
I don't actually have my music button to play on this shit because this is deja vu again from last year of your crap.
This time, though, Chera.
Okay, right.
You're not excited about that?
If he was at another club, possibly.
Did you see his ceiling last year? He was another one that showed he can actually rack up. What's he averaged at? 88? 87?
Yep. And if you're being Calvinator, he did score a 17. He was injured there, so you can take that one out.
So what's that take him up? 92?
Up to 92, yep.
Oh, hello. Okay.
What does it mean, though, for the Blues? Like, he's obviously going to play as a midfielder.
Yeah. I'm going to be sensible this year.
Right, okay.
So he's underpriced, without a doubt, but not one that I would probably be starting with myself. But as you said, the flow-on effect here is big because does it affect Walsh? Probably not. He's just too good and he'll just get it done. Cripper, that's in Cripper's hands. Nothing Chera does is going to affect Cripper, I don't think. But it's Kennedy that has me concerned because imagine if he kept that forward status, next year would have been probably not a lock, but certainly an underpriced target potentially. With Chera, what does he even see a centre bounce this coming season?
Yeah, it'll be interesting how they play him. And I think the really tricky thing as well in trying to predict anything, it's a new bloody coach. That's the worst part about it. Like, that's just going to be something, a mega pre-season one. Like, maybe he likes Paddy Dow, Vossi.
I don't think so.
No, right. No, who knows? Anyway.
But you do say that. So Paddy was attending a lot of CBAs. So Kennedy might still get his fair whack if it's just someone like Dow pushed out and Chera in. But, yeah, I was thinking more draft as well with someone like Kennedy. He's someone that you would think he was the first name that sprung to mind as someone who will not benefit at all from this move.
Especially if he does still hold forward status as well. It would be quite popular for draft because I reckon we're going to lose a lot of forwards and blokes with the potential of being 80, 85 plus like Kennedy is in his best case scenario it could be. The other one too, I don't know how Carlton try to sell that everyone can be a midfielder at their club because George Hewitt as well, like that was the free agent signing and he's potentially a midfielder. Like, I don't know where he fits in that back half if he does that as a defensive, as a backman, but he'll probably be that defensive midfielder, won't he?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's what they've got him in for. So you're right, it's an interesting one. I'm talking about whether Kennedy holds any sort of midfield time, and then you've got to think about Hewitt as well. He's in a world of trouble. He'll just be that forward flank again, won't he? That inconsistent forward flank. But Hewitt, he's not one we're going to watch. He averaged 74 from his 20 games this year. I think he's going to get every opportunity to be a more recognisable player within his team. Yeah. But I don't think it's fantasy relevant.
He should still have his defender status, so that might have a bit of interest there when you're looking at that.
That's very true. Yeah, very true. I didn't even think of that. So, priced at $4.88, if we get a whiff that he is a fair dinkum tackling midfielder for them with defender status, he deserves to be relevant. It's just you look at their back line. here I am saying it's a tight squeeze in the midfield, but you look at their back line, and although they're not a superstar team, each line does look pretty hard to sort of force your way into. And that back six, that runs about 8 or 9 deep with guys you could almost throw a blanket over. So I don't know if he does get back there.
No, it's going to be very interesting. The Blues we're going to have to actually talk about them a fair bit, I reckon, this pre-season, aren't we?
Oh, do we have to? But yeah, no, I think he's drafted as a midfielder, so that defender status could be relevant.
Yeah, now I'll flick through the players in a little bit of an order. We'll go from how they started. This is probably how we'll do our podcast. Jake Kelly at Essendon, I think that's obviously he's not a fantasy relevant guy, but what he'll do for Jordan Ridley should be really positive. I reckon Ridley, he was averaging well over 100 in the first few weeks, first month or so for the Bombers. I think that, definitely one that we'll just be watching based on Jake Kelly going there.
Have you made up with Riddler?
No, he came on the players' trip with me. So
you did invite him in the end.
Yeah, no, he was fine. He played enough games and he was begrudgingly allowed to come along. So, but no, you'll be right. He knows that he's made himself priced fairly nicely to be able to pick again because he can't be much worse than where he's priced at. So,
did you have the awkward conversation about all the negative threes you gave him?
Yeah, but that was after we had about 15 Bacardi breezes, so it was all good. Mabior Chol, he'll play as a second ruck, I guess. And so Witsy, I read something that he's on track for round 1. So the thing about Wits, he's someone that you could actually consider as one of your rucks next year. We don't like picking him off injuries, but he's going to be cheaper than what he was this year. And significantly cheaper than what he was this year, and people picked him, and it was the right call to make. So,
and let's face it, we find a way to do something stupid in the ruck department every year. So if it's coming off an injury, hey, sounds perfect.
By about round 5, we're going, oh, he's stupid. Why don't we just set and forget every single year? But we'll probably actually have 2 of them because I reckon him and Bruce could be our combo.
I think so.
They could be anyway. We talked about Hewitt. Nathan Kruger's a nothing there. I'm interested to see what he's actually going to be, what his role is, because he plays as a defender, but the Pies are just talking about him now being a forward, so he's not going to challenge us too much with our thinking, but he'll be rookie price in the sense of about 260K is my calculation on him based on this year's numbers. So if we don't have anyone else, that's right. Then that's sometimes what we are. I won't go too early on saying, geez, we're going to be struggling to find a rookie this year. But it is a thing. Like if we are struggling to find one, well, you might have to be paying for a bloke like him at that sort of price or whatever just to fit him in. Finlayson, nothing really to talk about with him. Luke Dunstan. Now, this is a very interesting one, Roy. So you were passionate about this. And
I did have a little bit. Yeah, I did actually. No, I was passionate. Yeah.
So Dunstan, obviously we know him as a bloke that can rack up the pill. And if he's in the side, he's going to be one of the guys, even regardless if he's at Melbourne, who's got a lot of bulls ahead of him already. But you're looking at him and you're going, yep, he's going to be a 90-plus type guy, which is obviously draft relevant. I don't think he's going to be classic relevant for us at all this year, like especially even to start with there with his 95 average next to his name, which will price him around guys that you have a fair bit more faith in, let alone job security. Now, that's the issue, job security. Where do you see him sitting?
Well, you would have to assume it's just outside the 22, but I would not be surprised at all if he lines up round 1. I think it's an absolute masterstroke. This guy, it's become the cool thing to criticise him, I reckon. Yeah. And it's unfair criticism if you look at so many key areas statistically. He's actually way better than they give him credit for. And, you know, when people get desperate, they criticise his ball use and things like that. The percentage he goes at is a tick under like Petrarca. Now, obviously, I'm not saying he is a Petrarca, but it's just not enough to drag that guy's name through the mud like tends to happen in media circles, etc. For some reason, Rats obviously didn't like him. So okay, the Saints don't rate him, something's happened there. But I reckon they've got a very good player. If you look at, like I said, those key areas statistically where he sat for St Kilda, it is a phenomenal read. Like, it reminds me of how many categories Lyon led before he got shipped off to the Lions for nothing.
Yeah.
It's got a bit of that feel to it. Now, I don't think he's as good as Jared Lyons, but I still think he is very underrated, and it wouldn't surprise me if they actually use him.
So now the D's from their grand final. So James Jordan, I looked that up and I think I tweeted out the other day that he played or started in 21 of the 23 games. I think then he was sub in the rest of them. Like, it was pretty crazy what he did for the season. So it'd be interesting to see sit ahead of him. Dunstan, I'm not sure. To me, it's an easier one, so he could be in the 23. And then some of the names that are floating around there, like Harmsy was very good this year for them, played that role. But,
fine.
The wingers are set in Brayshaw and Langdon. So in the guts there, he's not going ahead of Petrarca, Oliver, or even Jack Viney, who was also very good in the grand final. But, yeah, it'd be interesting to see some of those other names a little bit like, your Sparrow types and just seeing exactly what happens there. And it's like, we can prove it on the track in the pre-season, doing whatever they can.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And they've got a bit of flexibility there too with those midfielders that can go back and forward for the Demons. Yep. So, like a niggle down back or up forward with one of those, lesser names, even though they're all good and they're premiership players. But that's quite an easy shuffle for, like, Harms has played both ends of the ground, hasn't he? If he had to fill a spot back there, that's an easy fix with Dunstan, not even relying on an injury to a midfielder or a form issue to a midfielder, so to speak.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to watch, and as if they're going to have a fully fit 22 all the time as well. So, and then you get a spot, you can keep yourself in there. Flickered through as well. So we talked about Will Brodie, Chera. Now, I just want to remind everyone, and I'm going to set this up for when we do our podcast, Roy. Your tweets about that. I like the way the Blues just got it done swiftly with Chera. Good young player, wants to be at your club. Just make it happen, even if, in my opinion, it's slightly overs.
Yeah.
Then a few minutes later, okay, I've been converted. Chera was a bargain. So you've gone from you paying overs to getting him as a bargain. Yeah. That's all right. And then the next one, okay, now I've been converted from bargain to fair trade. Outstanding feedback. That is Roy during trade week in an absolute nutshell. So, yes, you are Rendell-like.
I told you, it's my favourite segment.
All right. So, cruising through after old mate Chera, Tim O'Brien. The interesting part of this, like, he's never going to be an option, but Braden on Twitter actually tweeted out about how he's going to be priced at 58, but obviously as a key forward. But then he played the last 5 games as a key back, averaging 75. So there's a little bit of meat on the bone with that. So it might be a draft type thing that you're looking at. The last 3 games at 84. That in round. And this is, I always think, this is always a funny thing. You're looking at these guys that get traded, and I would love to see the stats. Actually, Sir Swamp Thing might be able to tell us this. When a player's traded, was their best game of the season against the club that they got traded to? So he played against the Bulldogs. That was his best game of the season. And he scored his first ever fantasy ton against them. And so, let's get him. But he took 10 marks and had 24 touches, basically. That was 6 intercept marks there and 14 intercept possessions in that. And that's exactly why they've probably picked him. But if he's playing that role, then he could be, one of those sort of scrap heap type dudes that you might use off your bench in draft. Could be a thing for him, but no, you're not picking him really for any other reason. Lewis Young to the Blues. There's another.
Now we're talking.
What do you reckon, Roy? Pass. Play on.
Oh, definitely a pass. Yeah. The only interesting thing with him is, once again, where he plays and if that has any effect on anyone else, because I think he's playing down back.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty tough 6 to get into. But
yeah. That's right. And
even getting a game will rely on like Marchbank being fit.
Yeah. So he played a bit of backup ruck there for the Dogs, but
and look what battle.
Yeah, and what's that going to look like? What's the ruck going to look like there for the Blues then? Like, De Koning is their guy that they want as their number one ruck for the future, don't they?
100%, but they do like Pitto. I think it was the T-shirts that got him over the line, but...
Still available at dreamteamtalk.com.
I reckon, AFL is a bit of a copycat league. I reckon they might see the two-pronged attack at the Demons and think it's worth playing the two of them. De Koning and Pitto, yeah.
Interesting. Rightio. So, Sam Petrescu-Seaton, you devastated about that? Going to West Coast?
I am devastated at what a mess that's become, and I fully blame the actual club, not SPS. Like, they should have got way more out of him, so I hope that he actually lives up to his potential at West Coast.
Yeah,
because he's a Jet, and that's a good pick. That's a bargain for them. If they can, get anything out of him, which, like I said, I reckon he is good, but he wasn't good at Carlton.
He's probably played every single position except ruck for the Blues as well. They threw him around so many places and never ever got settled. Like, he's a midfielder at heart, isn't he?
Well, they got him as a mid-forward and we ended up playing half-back. And it was no good. It wasn't working for him, but they persisted with it, of course. Now, when he does play, like, they apparently want to play him as a mid-forward, which is what he's supposed to be doing in the AFL. And times where he has got a little look at it, he's posted averages of like 78.
Yeah.
So if he goes over there and, he plays a nice role, he could be nearly 20 points under.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say do it.
That's your blue man talking about you still, isn't it?
And it's me wanting him to go well. And I wouldn't do it, but he's coming in under price compared to what he'll average.
Yeah. Cool. All right, last couple then today. We saw Robbie Tarrant at Richmond. Nothing to see here from your fantasy perspective. And Tigers anyway, even for whatever he might add to the side to free someone up or do whatever, like, they just don't score points. So there's no one that we're getting excited about there for that. But then Callum Coleman-Jones, who will potentially be a good fantasy forward, like of the key position forwards that can be all right, like he will be in the future. So, one of the things about that for Classic, I did the numbers on that because we apply the any discounts to the higher average of the last 2 years.
Yeah.
He actually played one game last year, which was a BCV of 83. So to get discounted by only 6% off that just makes him way too expensive. So
that rules it out because I hadn't factored that in, and in the back of my mind I was thinking he's going to be quite solid.
Yeah. He's probably, and like it's the guy, when I wrote about that, if you check out the rolling blog on dreamteamtalk.com, he might be a bit of a stash in your keeper league if you get him, because he's probably, North Melbourne are going to get better, you'd think. So,
for a keeper, it's not bad because he obviously can still ruck.
Yeah.
And Goldie's not going to be around for that long.
No, and the way the clubs are going at the moment, like I think we're really seeing back to the dual ruck setup. So it's something that would be sitting there as a nice little bonus to him, as well as obviously being a pretty decent forward. Yeah, too,
and everyone is going to copy Melbourne.
Yeah.
It's just Jackson and Max are better than everyone else's first ruck. But anyway, you can try to copy the structure.
You can try. Rightio. Well, that's all of the trades thus far. We will have a podcast after the trade period, but this is on Spaces. You can actually request to speak. Roy, would you like to take some talk back?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So if you want to, we'll just randomly, when someone wants to chat.
What if no one wants to?
They probably won't. There's a few people there that are floating around, some very good fantasy coaches that will probably, I might ask them some questions instead.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah, that would be as we're going. Have you I guess it's too early to start thinking about our teams for next year, but is there anyone in your mind that you will definitely pick for next season? I'm going to throw a couple of names to you. Price in the 50s. Would you go for Matt Rao?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we have to, don't we?
It's so funny you ask him. I was thinking about him when I was laying in bed last night.
Already? It's October.
And I was thinking it's a yes from me.
Right. You were right there, Roy. No one does want to speak to us, so
that's okay.
That's all right. No, it's very.
Keep throwing names at me.
All right, another name that I'll throw at you. Let me think about this. I actually started doing some stuff because I needed to get some names together for something in the future that we had to get organised with. What about let's go with Lachie Neale. Price at 94.4.
I don't want to.
No. Look how cheap that is, though.
Yeah, and he's definitely going to be in the mix. But
he hasn't averaged less than 100 since 2014.
I know. I'd have to hear his pre-season has just gone without so much as a little hiccup, because watching him run around this year, especially as an owner for a period of it, it was hard. It was a hard watch.
All right, similar to that then, at price at 82, Paddy Cripps. Could you do that?
Oh, hard watch, all right. That is so
82. Cheap. He's apart from his debut season, that's the lowest he's averaged.
Look, that's actually hard to say no to. But once again, he just looked so bad last year. He can't... Yeah. Look, if he has a good pre-season, at that price, you cannot possibly say no. And I feel like Voss is going to be good for everyone.
Yep.
Which is why Zach Williams is in.
Right, Josh is going to be our first caller on this trade period chat. And it says connecting. Hopefully that works, because we have had issues with actually using this thing in the past, so it's still saying connecting, which isn't a great sign. Hopefully that works.
But I can hear Josh.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, man, this is my phone. I'll let you talk to him then. Go.
Hey, fellas. Good to speak with you. What I've done, I've actually knocked up half a decent team in the off-season ready to pre-season, mate. So
I love it.
I'm firing. What do you reckon about the rumours of Dylan Stevens taking over Jordan Dawson's role in the midfield?
It's very interesting, isn't it? Because I think we all think that he's got it from a fantasy perspective. If he's named there, how could you say no? What do you reckon he'll be priced at?
He's bloody cheap, mate. He's going to be priced at about 31, 32.
So it's just a no-brainer for us, isn't it? If he's named, we have to do it.
M6, I reckon, lock that one away.
Yeah, for sure. Have you got any smokies you want to share with us in this ripping team that you've already picked?
Zach Guthrie finished quite well.
Yeah, he had that real big one, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So he was playing a bit of good footy down there for the Cats, and he was getting a bit of football. I think he outscored his brother in a couple of weeks there as well.
Yeah, I remember looking at the scores one game and I saw, Guthrie up the top, and then about 5 minutes later it registered that it was the wrong one, and I was like, what the hell? So, yeah, I do remember that game. But people like him, the younger Cats, you would think this year they start to be safer picks from a week-to-week selection perspective.
Absolutely, mate. And look, I've got another one that I'm looking at here. And I know Hawthorn might be a mixed bag because of Sam Mitchell coming in, but what about Connor Nash if he retains forward status?
I haven't looked that closely at him, but I will say I will agree with what you said about Mitchell coming in. I reckon he's one of the scariest coaches to take the reins that we've had in recent times. I really don't know which way that guy's going to go. And then today, all that talk about if you're 26 or older, like you're potentially going to be shipped out. I do fear him. But Nash, from memory, didn't he have a really good patch like the last 3 out of the last 4 weeks or something like that?
Mate, he did, and that's what I was looking at as well. It was the way that he finished.
Yeah.
He was playing real good footy, and they chucked him in the midfielders. I'm a Hawthorn supporter, so I was watching in TV. So I was watching, and they chucked him in the middle as a big-bodied midfielder. So he was taking on their best midfielder most weeks and winning a lot of the ball. So he's very tempting. I think he's priced at around 60. But if he retains that forward status, I think he could push 85. So well, if he looks like getting a mid-roll and he has that forward status, that certainly adds to the temptation. I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but did a few people, and that's not relevant to next year, but did a few people take a Hail Mary on him leading into like maybe the prelims or the grand final on the back of a couple of hundreds? That was him, wasn't it? That was Nash. 100% it was, and it was such a good pick because they downgraded and made a couple of 100,000 on someone who was injured. I forget who it was.
Yeah,
and
that's
they
right.
just loaded up on another mid. It was such a clever little pick.
Yeah, well, he's certainly one to watch then, isn't he? Because I do recall now he was going well, and I saw it firsthand a couple of times actually down at Pig Park.
Yeah, absolutely, and I guess. And everyone's got their eye on this bloke, but the last one I'd want to say, if they don't have their eye on them, they should. With Chera gone, Sarong, finishing the way he did, I think he finished on 117 average for the last 3 games.
Yeah.
He's got to be in everyone's mindset for an M5 or thereabouts. I think that's a lock this year.
Yeah, well, I agree. The reason he is so cheap is purely due to horrendous time on ground and inconsistent roles and things like that. Cheragon, and what would Sarong be coming into his 3rd year now, just ready to go bang. Yep, I like it a lot.
100%. All right, boys, I'll leave you for the next caller. Good on ya.
Cheers, Josh.
Enjoy the off-season.
Hey, I could hear some of that there at the end, which is awesome. I've worked it all out. So thanks, Josh, and I'll look forward to rewinding back and listening to that there. Roy, we're going to add in Woodsy now. Hopefully this still works again for me. Woodsy, how you going, mate?
I'm well. How are you, boys?
Good. How are you travelling this off-season so far?
Well, I'm just up here in sunny Singapore looking over my balcony and having a cold one on a Friday afternoon. Work's completed for the week and tucking into some Japanese homebrews.
Oh, you beauty. How's that treating you then? Very nice, I assume?
Yeah, it's all good up here, mate. Semi-lockdown, but getting towards the end of it, we hope.
Oh, cool. So that's, it's always interesting to see how things are travelling elsewhere. You're probably in a similar position to us, I guess. That's in Australia in general then, I suppose. So,
sorry, Woodsy, where are you?
In Singapore.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so tidying up the afternoon. It's 4:30 up here and sliding into a couple of beers.
Oh, awesome. Barry Manilow, dog.
Yes, Barry Manilow, Singapore. Very good. Now, so Woodsy, have you been listening to trade radio there?
No, bits and pieces. I keep it in the background while I'm doing some work. So I did. My mother just texted me and said Treaders was on Channel 9 tonight saying the Pig might be heading to Port. So that was interesting news.
What?
I didn't even hear that one. That's very interesting. We won't even have to change our beanies, Roy.
Wow. She was quick on the text and got through and said Porter after Tom Mitchell. So I hadn't heard that one either. So Mum might be up with the scoop.
Well, it's very interesting because Ken Hinkley does like the Pigs, so that connection is definitely there. But a lot of talk on trade radio was regarding the Hawks wanting to get rid of one of those guys, whether it be the Pig, O'Meara, Wingard, for a first-round draft pick. So, who wouldn't? If you were in the window, who wouldn't want to get a bit of bacon in there?
Absolutely. Totally agree with you.
How did you go?
Sorry, Warnie?
Oh, you go, mate. You continue.
Well, no, my caller stole my thunder. I started with Sarong last year and got terribly burnt by the time on ground, and I was just I was going to double down and go again next year, and I was going to ask the question: is it a safe move? And you sort of answered that at the end of Josh's call last start. So I think I'm convinced I'm gonna have another crack at him.
Yeah, I like it. I'm a big fan. I considered launching in and going with you last year. I certainly went really early in our draft. And it actually got to the point where I delisted him, and he was quite an early pick for me. So I had the faith in him last year. I thought that time on ground stuff wouldn't be an issue anymore. Next year, I'm very convinced that it's not an issue, and I think he's a great pick.
3rd-year breakout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, boys. I think, if I went for him at the start of this year, if I don't go for him at the start of next year, they'll be doubly raged.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Who do you back for, Woodsy?
I'm a Port supporter, mate.
So you're a Port supporter. Yeah. How long have you been in Singapore for? Like, is it tricky to get your fantasy fix from there, or do you find it easier sometimes because you're probably able to switch on for AFL a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been here about 10 years, and it's the same time zone as the West Australia time zone. So your pod comes out very early afternoon here on a Monday, and I find it very great for fantasy updates and AFL in general, because by the time you wake up, there's a bit of news have hit the wires, and you can just quickly catch up and troll around the websites and whatnot and keep abreast of it all. So it's a very good time zone for keeping in touch.
Oh, that's why they win over in WA all the time.
It's got to be something about it. They're across everything, those Western Australians. They're really good at fantasy.
Maybe that's what we need to do, Roy, move over there.
Got to do something.
Living here isn't working for us, so we might have to go somewhere else. Awesome, Woodsy. That's very cool. So how did you go this year? What was your ranking?
Average. I think I was with Roy in the 10,000 club, and managed to get into the low 3,000s by the end of the season.
Nice.
So pretty average. Yeah, stuck with it, kept on going.
Yeah.
So, but just an average season.
No, we bounce back next year, Woody. Don't worry.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, mate.
All right, boys.
Thanks, legend. We'll add in Nathan here. Is that adding for you, Roy?
I just dropped out for a sec. Are you there, Nathan? Nathan's he's got his mic crossed out for me. There he is. I reckon he's on.
Have you got me?
You there, Nathan? Yeah, mate.
Perfect. I can hear. I can't hear Warnie.
Oh, that's perfect.
I was just joining to say that I actually have done that, the move to Perth. So I've escaped Melbourne lockdown and come to Perth, but unfortunately I came right at the wrong time. I waited until fantasy season was over, so I didn't get any of the skills.
Don't worry about that, mate. You've got next year just to launch now. WA is where it's at. You are now a chance. Yep, you're a chance to win the car now.
Yeah, no, the second that DC got his hat, he's been parading it around in the group chat. So I've gone, well, I've got to make some drastic moves here to make sure he's not the only one.
Yeah, get it done. I wonder how you go with the time zones there, with the early games and things like that. Be interesting.
I'm not a morning person, but it has not worked out for me coming to Perth for the first bit because, all the friends and family and workmates are also up at 6 a.m. Perth time, and I just want a nap.
The 3 hours now is pretty massive. Like, that's the thing. Like, those first, 3 or 4 rounds that you'll have next year, when it's a 4:50 start, like, that just does my head in thinking about that. I'm not leaving work or whatever before then. So
that's a lie. That's a lie.
No, Friday afternoon I'm having
fair call. Sorry, I'll take it back.
But yeah, it's always a very interesting thing. But I've just added DC here. And we did see his video floating around on social media too of the hat being unwrapped and popped on the head to the Lion King. How you going, DC?
Yeah, good, mate. Going well. I feel as though I've actually become more well known for being a goose on Twitter in the last 24 hours than I have for playing fantasy. So,
that was outstanding.
Thanks, mate.
Perfectly done.
I just wanted to thank you. I just wanted to rebut against this theory of moving to WA and becoming a better fantasy player, because I am a Perth native and moved to Canberra a couple of years ago and actually became better at fantasy since I moved to Canberra. So it doesn't always happen.
That's an asterisk, though, because Canberra's the most boring place.
Yeah, that's fair. Cool. Had a lot of time on my hands.
And that, considering that time slot's like 4 years behind, it's it'd be even more interesting.
Exactly.
So, have you taken the hat off yet?
Yeah, I actually didn't have it on for much longer than that video, so it's now gone straight to the pool room, so to speak.
I love it.
Yeah, so no, it's just sitting up on display somewhere now.
It'd be an interesting thing, Roy. What would you do? Would you wear it all the time, or would you actually even go in and get it framed?
That is a great call. It's one that I'll never have to think too much about. I think I'd be a heavy wearer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big fat number on the side of it is just so large as well. Everyone will not understand what that's about, even if they're not totally into fantasy.
Yeah.
Well, not in Canberra. No one understands it in Canberra.
That is the downside. So Nathan and I do a bit of our own podcasting as well. It's basically like the Traders, but nowhere near as professional or insightful.
Professional.
Geez, it must be bad then.
We hear it. You guys have your own soundboard and everything. We press record on a Zoom, and we don't edit that. We just go, that'll do. So
I like that.
You guys are professional.
But I did work out when we were looking at sort of our stats of where our listeners are from that I was the only listener in Canberra on our own podcast.
How about a bit of hometown support? That's,
exactly.
That's like us in Tassie. Everyone hates us here.
Yeah. I was talking to someone the other day about that with the kids at school. I'm bloody, as a teacher, these kids don't listen. I say, 20,000 people choose to listen to me every podcast, and you guys won't even let me do the freaking roll call.
Where's the respect?
Exactly. Don't they know who I am? Anyway. Well, so have you started any form of pre-season note-taking yet, Nathan or DC?
Done a little bit. It's hard not to, right? That you're on Twitter and you just see these things come through and you go, oh, that's interesting. I want to do that.
Yeah.
So
hashtag more midfield time.
Yeah, exactly right. The second I saw that Isaac Heaney thing, I thought absolutely no way. But at the same time, he'll play one pre-season game.
Yeah,
and he'll do a Tom Phillips. He'll get a 140.
Yeah. What do you reckon about Heaney? Like, he's going to be priced at 76, and so that's his worst or his cheapest point since 2016. So he's a 90-plus guy, is what we always think. But obviously, his body is cooked for a lot of it. That can be an issue, but could you do it?
I think it'll depend how many forwards we have as genuine options, because it doesn't look like there's going to be that many. But, if Mitch Duncan gets forward status, or if Connor Nash has forward status, if there's these other players that you go, I much prefer them to any, but you might almost be left with absolutely, nothing. So you might have to go for it. That's
cheaper than De Goey started last year. The price De Goey started at last year.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But is it like a De Goey move where you don't make it right at the start? Because if he does come good, you can bring him back in later. But if Penny stinks it up, you can't really go anywhere. And a lot of people were stuck with De Goey. Whereas I traded him in later in the year.
I think we better just have a look at him first.
One thing I will say with Heaney is that his situation is actually not that dissimilar to Callum Mills at this time last year, where we were sort of talking about the fact that Callum Mills will never be this fantasy player, he'll always be a bit of a tease. And then he goes into the midfield and dominates. So if Heaney ends up doing the same thing and they actually stick to their word, then he's definitely got the ability to be a gun.
Agree. Yep. It's just, where does the spot open up for him for all this time? Because it's not like Dawson was running through centre bounces and things like that. Where does the spot open up?
Well, we keep expecting JPK to slow down, but he's not. So that's the thing. That's where I potentially only see the opportunity, is if he's just doesn't have a great preseason or has a little niggle or has an injury and goes forward for a bit. But you can't really play JPK. His best position's clearly inside mid, so I don't see him getting in there.
The thing is, he's averaged 90 playing purely forward before. So if he's even getting a little uptick in CBAs, etc., it's hard to say no for that price. Realistically, sometimes you just got to step back and go, that price, that's how good that guy is. If he's getting 50% mid-time, like DC said, that's pretty tempting. Could be very Mills-like.
Yeah, I don't think he'll necessarily go that full Mills role.
Oh, God, no.
Because I still think he's too good a forward and that he'll probably spend at least half of his time there. But it wouldn't surprise me if he does spend more time through there. I mean, the detractor for that would be that they've got a couple of other young kids who look like they could be pretty good inside mids in Warner and Rowbottom in particular. I think that I would assume will probably end up spending more time through there over the next couple of years as well.
That's one of my concerns, I reckon, for Heaney, is that he's just too good forward. Like, he's actually a marking target for them, which is what's always going to be, I guess, the role player that he'll need to be at times, if not more often than not.
Yeah, I agree.
How often was Hewitt starting in the middle towards the end?
Would have increased a bit at the end. I'll see if I can find that.
Yeah. I think some people brought in Hewitt because they thought he was going to get more mid-time than he did. No, Jeppa did. And it didn't turn out necessarily that way, but he definitely had more CBAs.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few that open up there, aren't there?
Yeah, you would think so, yeah. Hewitt obviously spent a bit of time in defence as well because he did have defender status. But
yeah. I think it was towards the end he sort of made that shift mid, didn't he? This is just
I think
from afar. Yeah. Anyway, no, it's definitely one to watch. We might get so sick of hearing more midfield time that we scoff at it every time rather than actually giving it a bit of consideration these days. So it definitely deserves consideration.
Yeah, definitely. The thing I always do is work out, like, kind of like we were just discussing, who are they pushing out? Because ideally you want your midfielders to probably be in the top 3 or 4 mids for a team. So if you can't find someone who they're going to push out, then you kind of take it with a grain of salt. But if there's a spot there, then they're the ones I generally take good notice of.
Yeah, fair call. Good call.
Cool. All right.
Wait, who is inside mid for Carlton? Well, who are the midfield? Because we just added like 8. So I feel bad because I think Paddy Dow's no longer in the midfield anymore. So
I'm waiting for him to be named up as being delisted. That's where I've got him.
What were your thoughts on
the curse of the song?
What were your thoughts on Gibbons getting delisted?
Yeah, a little bit rough. There's a great segment on Trade Radio, and I think Brendan Goddard actually had him starting round 1. That would have been a very emotional roller coaster for Gibbo if he listened to that. He would have been walking very tall, only to find out tap on the shoulder, sorry mate, you're gone. But no, I rate him. I think he's good, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's either picked up by someone else or if they chuck him on that token rookie listing or something, surely.
Yeah, definitely surprised me. I think can't remember whether it was last year or it might have been the year before that he was actually a little bit fantasy relevant as well.
Yeah, he did have that really good patch, didn't he? So he certainly got it in him. I'm not sure why that happened, to be honest. But they must be happy with a few of those small forwards that they've got developing, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I might let's wrap this up, boys, because I think I need to go and get another beer. I haven't brought in a tall beer, so I could have that, a 500 miller. But I've finished that, so I need to go and get another one because it is Friday night. It is the off season where we try not to think about fantasy too much, but we can't help ourselves. That's the problem.
No, do you know what I'm going to go do to get my mind off it?
What's that?
No.
Yeah. What are you going to do, Roy?
I got to go and watch the rest of the Squid.
Oh, yeah, Squid Game. That's been very good. I've finished it. What do you got left in you, Roy?
I've got a few. How many episodes is the series?
I think it was 9.
Oh, boy. I've got about 2 left, I think.
Yeah, no, you'll enjoy it. It was very good. I wouldn't have thought that my best show of 2021 was going to be a Korean film series.
Do you dub or do you read?
See, I was keen to read, but then I started dubbing it without, like, when it started. And I thought it wasn't too bad. It wasn't actually, compared to other things that I'd watched before, and so it worked. Some people, I think it becomes a bit of an elite thing for some people to go, oh, you've got to read the subtitles. You can't do that.
I've definitely been frowned on since I went public with my dubbing.
Yeah, but I thought the dubbing was as good as I've seen, and anyway, it is what it is.
For the first 10 minutes or so, I was like, whoa, this dubbing's crazy, and now I don't even realise.
It was a cool series. Anyway, thanks, people, for jumping on. We'll have a podcast in probably about a week or so's time. We'll try to work that out with V8 when he's available. Who knows? What do you reckon he's doing, Roy?
You were worried when you had to think about what I was going to do. I have far more concern about what he's up to.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we'll see.
And I don't want to think about it.
Hopefully he's alive. That's probably the main thing for him, because who knows what he does to himself in these off season. I reckon he's probably injected himself with plenty of green cans, and that hasn't changed. But anyway, thanks for jumping on.
You can tell what he's been up to within the first 10 minutes of looking at him and smelling him.
Yeah, when he gets within 20 metres of you, you can work it out. So anyway, thanks everyone for jumping on. This has been good fun, and yes, enjoy the rest of the trade period. And make sure you tune into a bit of Matty Rendell. I will say, Roy, Rendell's got better as it's gone on. I think he might have been told a couple of nights ago to research a little bit of stuff to know some things.
He's pulled it back a lot, hasn't he? I think he also sort of swagged in with the expectation he could almost say anything, and the listeners were like just completely unresearched or no knowledge in the area, because people were just cutting down hard.
Again, like Calvin, what he'll be like when we do this podcast as well.
Very much like that.
Awesome. All right, well, thanks for jumping on. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the weekend, and 3 more days of trade radio, and trade period will finish on the Wednesday night. So anything still to come that's going to be any fantasy relevant ones? I think Lipinski's probably the only big one in my head, I reckon.
Yeah, where there's smoke, there's something going to happen with the Hawks, I reckon.
Yeah.
They just seem hell-bent on getting rid of one of those guys. So the flow-on effect from that at both ends could be interesting.
I would love to see them implode. Oh. Especially under Sam Mitchell would not make me any more happier that he really lights a freaking fuse and it explodes.
Yeah.
It would be very good.
Yeah. I'd cheer.
All right, so Troy.
Okay, catch you, man.
Jumping on for a chat. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.